We got action. See if we got action. We got action. All right.
Midwest to all around the world. Broadcasting the best in hip hop and R&B. Right here. 24/7. Hits 107.3. The Beat. Midwest.
Joint so fresh, you gotta Shazam it.
Coming through loud and clear.
It's 102 Jam.
It's our perspective. When perception comes to truth, respecting you won't lose. Right or wrong is what you choose. Perspective. It's just the point of view, the odds and the outcome based on how you move. It's all perspective. When perception comes to truth, respecting you won't lose. Right or wrong is what you choose. Perspective. It's just the point of view, the odds and the outcome based on how you move.
What they say, Kel? The odds and outcome based on how you move.
Not how they move.
We can't.
But how you move. That's my best P voice right there.
We can't. We can't control how they move. I wish we can control how other people move, but we can't control how other people move, right? So
absolutely.
And the outside influences that change things. So everybody, welcome to the Perspective 217 on this nice 420 morning.
420, you know what that means for them folks out there that live that life, man.
I don't live that life, but for those,
I don't either. But 420 all the way around, man. Shouts out to y'all folks.
Hey, enjoy safely.
Right? Absolutely.
I mean, don't go out there and just because it's the day and get so blowed, as they used to say when we were younger, that you lay it out and can't get back up. So yeah, we had a special guest lined up for the day, man, and just got off the phone with him about 5 minutes ago. Okay, so what do we have?
So first of all, welcome all the viewers and listeners, man. And looking over here, man, give some quick shots out, man, because it's early, man. Usually we do our thing on Thursdays, man, around 6 p.m. when folks is getting off work and kind of settled in. But today we had a special edition episode today. Unfortunately, our special guest had to make some last minute changes, but I want to get some quick shots out though for the folks that's tuning into us. Gerald Ryan, what's going on, cuz? Ben Shepard III, Saida, how you doing there, ma'am? Amanda Taylor and Sam Woods. Thank you guys for tuning in, rocking with us with Perspective 217. So, like I said earlier, we had a special guest lined up today, Mr. Selwyn Jones, who was George Floyd's uncle. He had actually reached out to the Perspective crew and wanted to sit down and kind of talk to us about some of the things and circumstances that he and his family have endured here over this situation since May 25th of 2020. We just got off the phone with him literally 5 minutes ago, and he got a call. I'm assuming from someone I don't know specifically, but more or less they told him he needed to get to Minneapolis,
Minnesota, right?
Minnesota, sorry. So he can be there for I don't know whether it's deliberation purposes or family support or whatnot. And so as we were talking to him, he was actually on the highway making his venture there. So of course we can't control those circumstances, but what we do control is what we do here at Perspective 217. So we got up. We got things running, man. And so, we're going to give y'all our perspective on the special edition. So it kind of works a little bit because this is kind of a bonus episode for you guys because we got some things that's going on this week where we wouldn't be able to broadcast live on Thursday anyway. So this kind of gives us a little bonus to kind of give you guys something to view or listen to here for the next week or so.
So let's jump into it, Kel. I mean, everybody know who you are. Everybody know who I am, who's watching the Perspective show. And if you don't, look at our page. You'll find out. I can't even say really how your week been. Your week been busy, right? I mean, we still got the gun violence.
Absolutely.
We still got this trial situation going on
Mm-hmm.
that is capturing everybody's attention, whether it's for the good or the bad, right? You know what I mean? Whether you have good feelings about it or bad feelings about it, it's capturing your attention. And then we still dealing with this COVID situation, right? So let's talk a little bit about what we've observed from this trial so far. So we're in they're in deliberation right now,
Mm-hmm.
the jurors. They did the closing arguments yesterday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting, man. I want to get your perspective on it before I give mine.
Okay. So I got to see most of the prosecution's closing arguments, and I didn't get to see a lot of the defense closing arguments. And this is my perspective. This is my point of view. And I'm not an attorney. I'm not. As far as any kind of legal representation, that's not what I am. You all know me by now, Scales, and so I'm gonna give you my perspective. And so as of now, through what has been presented, right, to the public, I believe the prosecution has laid a pretty solid foundation of evidence pertaining to the matter at hand. As far as Mr. George Floyd's life being taken by former officer Derek Chauvin. And the reason I say that is because this, and I know you guys may have heard this if you kind of been thrown into the news realm, like we all have been, I guess, since the pandemic and the uptick in loss of life with unarmed Black men and brown people, men and women as well. The news kind of gives you everything, and so this particular trial, to me, the feel of it is they are trying to convict Mr. Chauvin, rightfully so. I mean, because of they talked a lot about tactics. They talked a lot about training.
Mm-hmm.
They talked a lot about the manner that how Mr. Floyd was handled, um, how many officers were there, and how it went from the actual initial contact to him being put in handcuffs, to him being taken to the squad car, to him getting in and out, or actually trying to get him in the squad car, which he wasn't necessarily a fan of, and then so forth. And so I just believe, P, that for in my perception, man, the prosecution, they put a solid job, man. When I say solid, I mean like above and beyond. I mean, they for better or worse, man. I think they pretty much uncovered every rock that was laid. Except for the last part when they were talking about the carbon monoxide from the pipes, from the exhaust or whatever like that, which they were able to come back and rebuttal. But I think that they did a really solid job in doing that, man. Now the defense, on the other hand, um, when you don't really have anything, man, and to kind of defend, I mean, it's kind of you kind of throw things out there to see where it lands, man. And so, I just think that's kind of how the defense's approach has been this whole particular time.
I agree. Of course, I'm one of them. I plan for the worst and pray for the best type people.
Mm-hmm.
By no means are either one of us. I'm speaking for me specifically, but I know I can speak for you in this. With this being said, we're not anti-law enforcement. We're not saying that law enforcement is bad. We're not saying that the profession is not honorable as a whole. This is a direct comment on the actions of this person in Minnesota that dishonored the badge. And the badge for some, and I know a few of these people, for some, the badge is their identity. right? So I understand a little bit the offense that you're taking, because that's how you place your worth, is by the badge. The badge is part of who I am. Even though I don't do it anymore, it's still part of who I am, but it is not who I am. It does not define me as a man. So I want to get that out before I get into these other things. So you're clear about mine, right? I'm
Mhm.
Anybody who know me know I don't pull no punches, whether it be physically or mentally, emotionally, or philosophically,
Mhm.
right? So I believe this was a tough situation, man. I've sat through a lot of different like TV court situations, things that are on TV, that we have to watch and be privy to, something that was tragic. And there was times where I was like, man, I can kind of understand why that happened. Whether I agreed with it or not, I understood. This one, I don't understand. Right? I have I understand. I think the prosecution did a good job of pointing out the demeanor of this person, um, that kept his knee on the neck of this other person. Right?
Mhm.
It was They did a good job of explaining the fact that at first it might have been part of the situation. You know what I mean? Something that he had to do, or he felt he had to do, but the fact that he did not pull back when other people brought it to his attention.
Yes.
So that went from a situation where, man, I'm just trying to do my job, for me, to, I ain't gonna let you tell me what to do. I'm the big bad officer here. I'm going to be in control of this situation and not allow you to dictate what I do.
Mhm.
That's where I think that the prosecution did a good job of laying it out. Did they do a perfect job? I don't think they did a perfect job, right? I think there's things, because it's not a perfect situation, right? That
Right.
there's going to be angles and perspectives of it that are not going to line up with everybody, right?
Yeah.
But the defense, when they got to the point of trying to go for a mistrial, like at the end, I'm like, really? You have? Am I hearing this correctly? Right?
Yeah.
Am I hearing that you're going for a mistrial after you didn't spend all this time trying to pull out little things and say that it was he was within policy, when the chief of that department advised that was not within the use of force policy.
No,
But
sir.
not the continued action. Not it wasn't the fact of the crowd being there and needing to keep the crowd back. Bro, you could have kept the crowd back by moving back. Move your knee back.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even the
Yeah.
fact when I believe at one point in time he reached for some mace or something, right? When he was
He,
still
he reached for the mace when
yeah.
that young person came up, tried to come up and tell them, like, look, people wanted to intervene and stop him from killing him,
Yeah.
but that uniform, that profession, that, people would like to say the badge, and I've used it as well. They still was like, man, I don't. Something tells you, just like when the police get behind you and them lights come on, it make you nervous. I don't care if you're the police or not. Well, I can say it makes me nervous, right? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Maybe I have something that's a little different than some others, but it makes me nervous. And I know I ain't slanging no dope. You know what I mean? I ain't got no prostitutes in the back of the car. You know what I mean? I ain't got no, you know what I mean? Nothing, no warrants, no, my license is good, my insurance good. You know, I know all that stuff's in play, but it makes me uncomfortable.
Absolutely, because you never know who you're going to have contact with at that moment. You know,
And
you don't
never know how they're going to react, because you can control what you do, but you can't
right.
control what they do.
Absolutely,
We say that every show at the beginning. Control what you do, not what they do. And I'm pointing over my shoulder, people, not at myself. So that aspect, I've been there when I've seen, you know, some stuff go wrong with somebody. Somebody was kind of a little aggressive with somebody, and when I was off, when I wasn't in uniform, and had to, you know, I may have said something, but actually going and intervening was something that I wasn't comfortable with doing. Right. So I think this situation, man, is so traumatic to so many people. It's a black eye to the profession that I hold valuable. Right. I hold this profession as honorable, and but this is not an honorable act. This was not an honorable act. This is not something like that I can say, man, blindly, just because I wore the uniform, that, man, well, he had to do that. No, he didn't. He didn't have
he did
to
not.
do that.
He did not.
Right.
And that is not a trained tactic, because you know, first for one, the optics looks bad. If even still, if you are trying to get control and your knee is laying on someone's neck, the optics look bad. Secondly, it's a safety issue because of the fact that you are cutting off the airway from somewhere in that neck area. If you are pressing down on someone's neck with your knee, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a loss of air somewhere. And thirdly, you know, people die from that. I mean,
Right.
those are the three factors. That's the reason why that's not trained. You know, chokeholds from the rear, whether you're standing or not, you know, with arms or knees on necks, like those are pressure points where people lose their lives. So yeah, if it's not a deadly force where your life is in imminent danger at that particular point in time, or someone else's life is not in imminent danger, then that is not necessary. I mean, when you're talking about taking a life, that means that your life is in jeopardy and you are trying to survive. And this was not that case. I definitely want to say this real quick though, man, because this is a good question. Brother Ben Shepherd threw this out here, man. He said, if we get a guilty verdict, does it change your view on police brutality, and how? And I know he probably threw that out in general, but I guess we, you know, this is our show, The Perspective. I guess we can answer that question as well.
For me, no, it doesn't change my view on it, because that's saying that I believe that it doesn't exist.
Correct.
I believe it exists. I believe that there's people out there that are not equipped to do that job.
Yeah.
Right. They need to be an Amazon item picker. Right. They need to be doing a job that doesn't involve engaging with people. Right. If they're going to do a job. The problem we've said before, it's hard to find out until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you find out, you know, ahead of time, but you know, my view is I don't believe that there's no police brutality. I don't believe that there's not racist individuals on police departments. I don't believe that everybody that wears the uniform is equipped to have on the uniform. So that is, we don't live in Pleasantville, and I've used that term a lot of times. The world that we live in is not perfect. So
absolutely,
in everything that we have, you're going to have issues in, and this is an issue that needs and it's getting better, like you said, last episode. We've improved in our systems, but they're not where they need to be. They're not even
I
close
totally agree.
to where
Totally
they
agree.
need to be, right? They now, those who are still fighting and trying to think this is bashing you because you wear the uniform. It's not bashing you. If you are doing what's right, not just what's legal. There's a difference between it being legal and it being right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're doing what's right and legal, then nobody's talking about you.
Right.
They may look at you just like they look at black people with hoods on and say that they're gonna rob me. They may say that you have the potential to be one of those officers that may brutalize me if you get upset, or you may not like me or may pick on me. They may view you that way, but that's their perspective, right? It's our job in law enforcement, in the law enforcement community, because I still say I can't leave you out there, right? You know what I mean? I'm 15 years of my life, you know what I mean? I've done that. It's our job to change that narrative, just like the parents. The parents can't say, well, the kid was gonna be bad, the kid look at me like I ain't about nothing, and I'm gonna show him that I ain't about nothing. You're gonna be a child, right? You know what I mean? You're not gonna be the adult. Step up and understand that it's gonna be hard. We chose this profession.
Yeah.
It didn't choose us. We chose it.
Agreed.
And it wasn't. It may have had a calm part when you came in, where people liked you, but now is the part where people don't like the profession, whether they have just cause or not.
Well, I'll say this too, bro. This is not the first incident or situation where a black man's life has been taken by the police. Let's not let's not sugarcoat this at all. I mean,
Right.
for most of us that that in our age demographic, man, we can go all the way back to the Rodney King days. Although his life wasn't taken, he was beat to a pulp by several officers.
And it goes before that too, but that's the one that jumps out the most.
Correct. And so there has been hundreds, that have been where loss of life has happened and occurred. So this is not brand new, when it comes to police and people of color. And unfortunately, people are tired. They are tired. They're tired of losing their loved ones. They're tired of not having any transparency when it comes to sometimes investigations. They're tired of how they're being treated, by police officers. And so this is a moment in time right now where I'm not saying it's going to make amends for everything that's happened in the past, but this can be a moment in time where the world can see that change needs to happen right now. And if it doesn't change, then there's going to unfortunately be a lot of kickback. I mean, it's just what it is, because 9 minutes and 29 seconds, man, there's no justification, period. And for those officers to not render any type of aid, check a blood, a pulse, excuse me, or any of that, or try to talk to him, see if he's responding. None of that. That's just uncalled for. And I'm sorry, I don't care if you are a firefighter, or EMT, or police officer. You are trained to do that. Even in the event that you shoot someone, if you're a police officer, yeah, you have to address that threat, and you have to render aid, or at least call to get aid rendered. That's policy. I'm sorry. There's no there's no I'm just for the same amount of time it's going to do that, and that's some of the things that have changed because back in the day, those were the ways where whatever happened, if there was a shooting, then that be what it is, and then you make sure that the scene is safe, and you call the people out there, and then the investigation starts. Well, no, we've got past that now. Now it's if you do this and you cause bodily injury or harm or death, then you have to do this. That's part of your training. So there's no gray area to this, and I'm hoping that that this jury sees that.
So I agree mostly with that. I don't think we're as a nation past that. I think certain departments are mandating that you render aid, but I'm pressed to believe that that's across the nation, right? I think that some are still behind, and then
Are you talking about the departments
yeah, I'm talking about the department.
implementing that render aid for,
Right.
or just the police officers not taking action like that?
Both. I think it's both. I think that there's some still out there that are not necessarily that forceful on implementing that, because a policy is something on paper, right? I understand, I have a policy in Urbana, right? Because I totaled a squad car. And then there's a pressing policy, you know what I mean? that, you know what I mean? Because of an incident, right? The the policy is there to supposed to be there to kind of frame, to outline, to guide you as law enforcement on what to do, how it's supposed to be done. But policies change throughout officers' careers, and sometimes it appears that some of the ones that were there prior to, they don't
Yeah.
always adapt to that wording change in the
Well,
policy.
yeah, it's the of course it's the blanket of the liability. That's what the policy is. It's the blanket of the liability for that department. Absolutely.
And so unless it's like just like they do going to the range, right? You go to the range religiously, right, from the department because of the liability, right? They want to be able to say that you've had this many hours at the range and trained, and then when everybody was saying that it was implicit bias, that people didn't really know that they were being biased against other people, even though they knew, right? You know what I mean? They had an idea that okay, this action, if it was this person, I wouldn't do it, and then they'd make excuses for why they would. But everybody thought that was going to solve the issue, right? All the departments that I knew of was saying, "Oh man, implicit bias, it's going to solve our issue. It's implicit bias because the people don't know that they're doing it, and if they identify, well, some of them identified and realized, oh, this is what you're calling what I'm doing. All right, well, I'm gonna do it a little different because it goes back for me, Kel, where and this is going to do it goes back for me to where the way to get promoted when I was coming up was to have numbers, right? And numbers, to have numbers mean that you have to be active, right? And what does activity bring? Contacts. And what do contacts bring? It brings something in you to say, okay, I caught a fish in this pond, but I ain't catch any good fish in this pond. I'm gonna go to where I can catch more fish. Is that not, kind of enforcing some type of bias because you're saying it's about the numbers? Even though some departments are starting to change a little bit, but that's the way it was heavy when I was coming up, that you got promoted based on your numbers. You didn't. So that is a cultural issue.
Yeah, I mean, and we said this probably a million times on our show, P, is, the history of law enforcement and its culture from the very start has always been, biased and implicit. And so, it's changing, although the change appears to be slow, of course, if you're on the outside, because of, when you want justice and you want action and you want some answers, you want those now. Unfortunately for this profession, everything is like Mississippi slow. I mean, because
It's like turtles in mud.
it really is. I mean, let's be honest with you, man. I mean, we still print out reports. I mean, wasted paper. I mean, what I'm saying, like that's just kind of, and I'm not saying my department, I'm just saying just in general as right. Policing, people still print out paper reports. I mean, and I understand, it's good for, I guess, records and all that, but
right.
This is the technology, man. Like, come on, man. PDFs and everything else, but that just goes to show you, like, the culture, how slow it is, and kind of changing, man. And that's one thing the culture hates is change, because when the motto is that if it works, let's keep working with it. But we're to the point now where we've been to the point where it's not working. I mean, it works for some, but it doesn't work for all. And if we are supposed to be protecting and serving for all, then we've got to do better. We've got to look at this thing from the ground on up and from the top to the bottom in order to come to a compromise, somewhere, because let's just be honest. I mean, our communities are heavily policed, not so much to help protect us, but to kind of do what they have to do. Does it happen in the suburbs? No, not as much, because I guess they feel that those spots are okay. But there is some change, man, that definitely needs to happen. This bill, man, that's coming down the pipeline. I believe it goes into effect sometime in July 1, I think, which is part of the reform and the reform bill that was kind of put together by the Black Caucus, where hopefully they can move more into this whole accountability for officers' actions. And I agree. Here as I stand, there needs to be some accountability, because if I know that that I can go out and do whatever, and there's no accountability, then who's my overseer, so to speak? I know I got policies there, and if I, let's just say, I step on a policy or I overlook a policy, then I can get in trouble internally, from the department. But is it to the point where something civilly, it rolls over to a civil suit or something? But now with this bill, it's kind of moving to more of a criminal suit. If you do this or you cross those lines, then maybe you move to a civil and a criminal thing. I want to switch gears real quick, because we got a lot of stuff going on. But what are your thoughts, P? And I don't know if you've read or heard about this, about the 13-year-old kid in Chicago that was fatally shot a couple of days ago. Have you had an opportunity to take a look at that?
I heard about it. It occurred at McDonald's. Is that?
No, this happened. I want to say in the Latin community, I believe. This gentleman was Latino, I believe, and so Chicago has the kind of the spot shots, kind of like the cameras and the audio, where if there are gunshots, then they get kind of a pinpoint geographical area of where it came from, and then they go ahead and they dispatch units to go there. So shots were fired, police were dispatched, officer arrives on scene, notices two young men in the area. One young man, this 13-year-old, winds up running. Officer jumps out of his squad car, basically chasing down the alley. I don't know, maybe a couple yards, and as he gets to an opening in the fence, the kid kind of leans into the fence, dumps a firearm, and then kind of steps back out with his hands up. And the officer, by the time the officer catches up with him, he winds up shooting and killing him.
Oh, that's the one that dropped the firearm on the other side of
Yes.
the fence.
Yes.
Ooh. Ooh. I struggle a little bit with that, Kel. Because you know I always have to put myself in those situations, right?
Of course.
I try to put myself in the situation of the both parties, right? And you know, of course, I can't put myself in the 13-year-old anymore. But if I was that 13-year-old running and I had a gun and I would want to get rid of it, but
I mean,
let's what I would be thinking right at that time.
Yeah.
So, but then from the officer's standpoint, right? You know what I mean? If I'm chasing this 13-year-old, you know, whether I know he's 13 or not, right? You know what I mean? And he has a gun, and I see him with something in his hand. And then that little short time between him having it on the other side of the fence, whether he let it go or not and turn around, that would, man, I would pray that my eyes would be quick enough and my brain would process what I'm seeing quick enough for me not to pull the trigger. But I would definitely be alerted and ready for him to turn around with the gun. And that's being, I know people may not want to hear that, but that's the honest God truth. But I would pray that I would see it and my brain would process it, you know, quick enough for me not to pull that trigger in that particular situation.
Yeah.
That situation is completely different than the George Floyd situation. From my perspective, yes, life was taken in both. Yes, at the time that the trigger was pulled, from my understanding, he was unarmed. But that was one of them kind of bang situations, and I fear they'd be talking about me right now as the one that pulled the trigger if I was in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's being completely transparent. That's what I think. I don't know because I wasn't there. I wasn't the one who did it. I can't say how fast my eyes and brain will process that instant situation, but he didn't have 9 minutes, you know what I mean, to sit there with his foot relaxed on the concrete. He didn't even have his toe down. His foot was relaxed off to the side with his knee on his neck. So all the weight was on there. He whatever he could have been thinking, he shouldn't have been thinking, right? You know what I mean? As a 19-year law enforcement officer, those two don't compare. The only thing that compares is the loss of life.
Correct.
And there was a law enforcement and a non-law enforcement person. I don't know. That one would be tough for me.
Yeah, and the reason thank you for your input on that, bro. And the reason I asked you that is to kind of I wanted that to be known to our listeners and viewers that, you know, this is not the same incident. These are two different scenarios and situations. Unfortunately, the ending result was loss of life. But 9 minutes and 29 seconds with applied pressure is something totally different than not even a second decision, because I don't think I think they've kind of dissected and analyzed as far as what the time frame that that officer wound up shooting a 13-year-old kid and all that, but there's a difference between that situation in Chicago and this situation in Minnesota. And again, when you have that type of force, not only with him, Chauvin, and then the three other officers applying that continuing force, man, it's like when does it register with anybody? Well, and I thought I heard something in the video that I seen. I'm sure you guys have too, but when one of the officers said, "Man, you think we should check for a pulse?" That's usually the moment where the
Bro,
old snap moment kicks in.
somebody said something to him. My little back screen ain't working. Somebody said something to him, Kel. It wasn't like nobody. At first I thought everybody was just kind of like ignoring it and scared to say something to him, but they did. The other officers said something to him. I don't know which ones. I don't know how many, but I did when they started kind of replaying it in court. You know what I mean? I caught that. Like it was. He had so many opportunities to let it be something else other than your knee. If because there's people, there is people who will say, oh well, other reasons were the reason why Mr. Floyd died. Well,
contributing factors is what they said.
I'm not saying that he didn't have fentanyl in his system. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that his heart wasn't large. I'm not saying that you know what I mean. What I can say definitively was that your knee on his neck didn't help his life continue. Right, regardless of however you want to try to spin it.
Yeah.
His knee on his neck did not aid in his continued life.
I agree.
If I want to talk a little bit about excited delirium, right? Because the defense kept playing the fact that, when they first made contact with him, they got him out of the car at gunpoint, and then sat him down on the curb. And then after sitting him down on the curb, walked him to the police car. Mm-hmm. He saw how small the police car was. Bro, I've been in the back of a police car, right? You know what I mean?
I have to.
Police cars. And I'm only 5'7", right? My upper body's long, my arms are long, but my legs short, right? You know what I mean? I got them stubbies, right? And so me being in the back of a police car is tight as all get out, especially with his hands behind my back. Mm-hmm. And he's taller than me.
6'2", 6'3", I think, something like that.
That's a lot taller than me, right? So can you imagine how, if you have any type of phobias, how scary that would be to be put in that little box? And he, he was trying to tell him, right? Dude was like, the other officer that was trying to put him in at first was like, well, just get in. Right, you know what I mean, and then he got to the point where he's trying to shove him in.
They're trying to push him in.
Yeah. And then he was like, "Well, look, I'm gonna get in. Just give me a chance to breathe."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Right then, I just because he was worked up. Right. So when I say that, about he was worked up, and if you think he's on something, what happened to trying an excited delirium protocol? Does Minnesota not have an excited delirium protocol? Would it not have been just as simple to get them out? You got numbers, right? You have mass. You have at least 4 officers there. Get them out on the ground like you had them. One on one arm, one on the other arm, and one on each leg. Have the ambulance come in. Give them that old shot of that whatever, right? You know what I mean? Whichever they got. that cocktail to calm him down, then get him. You don't have to release custody. Just change your method and how he gets there. You know, there's so many Monday morning quarterback situations that could occur.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's the things that kept popping in my head when I watched the video. This is something that we were trained in Champaign-Urbana, right? You know what I mean? That people die from, you know, being worked up. You know, they burn themselves out, right?
Yeah.
So if we know that, why, as a law enforcement community, if we know that, why not try some of the other methods? When people last show, people were talking about why didn't they just de-escalate and back down? You know, why don't officers just de-escalate and back down? Well, first off, you don't really always have the luxury to back down, you know, in law enforcement, right? Unfortunately, you don't have the luxury to back down all the time. You know, yes, de-escalation needs to be a priority of once the situation starts to de-escalate, you need to de-escalate as a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, if that encounter if that encounter allows you to de-escalate it, absolutely, yeah.
De-escalating, then you need to de-escalate, right? You don't keep that same intensity when the other person comes down, just because you're pissed off, though, right? Because sometimes, you know, we get that pop, you know what I mean? Pissed off the police, and the situation continues on. And that's what people catch on video a lot of times, and then they pissed off because they saw the continuation. And hindsight is 2020 all the time, right? Like Mr. Wood said, it is 2020 all the time. But when you're trained a certain way, when your fine motor skills go out the window because everything is heightened and your adrenaline is going and things of that nature, your muscle memory kicks in, which is supposed to be what you're trained, if you're trained enough.
I got a question, Pete.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, through this course proceeding, man, they were laying out all of the training that, you know, that the chauvinists had, and you know, one thing that just kind of struck my mind here as you were laying out your point here was, you know, with the excited delirium, you know, we definitely both know what it is. You know, and that's a situation where individuals just, I mean, they're just kind of out of their body, so to speak. It's some kind of chemical imbalance. It's just not lining up. Typically, they're either naked or half naked because their body is literally, it feels like it's burning. And so typically when law enforcement gets involved, you know, they are sweating. And they are typically naked or half naked because they're trying to get air or some kind of relief to their skin. And so typically, not always, but
sometimes we catch them at the beginning of it.
Correct. But like people saying, you know, there's, you know, some protocols are to have a number of officers, and it can be anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on kind of what's going on. Mm-hmm. Fast forward though through all that, what I'm saying is this: that's a moment of crisis, right? When this person is going through excited delirium. My kind of viewpoint is when George Floyd was in handcuffs and they were trying to get him into that car, into the squad car, and he looked in there and was like, "Oh man, like, man, I got issues." Like, you know, you could see kind of that build up. If Derek Chauvin, who's supposed to be CIT trained, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I'll be lying to you.
I thought I heard him. That was kind of what, I mean, 17, was he 17 or 19 years in? I mean,
something like that, yeah.
I'm sure you're going to have some type of CIT training at some point in your 19-year career.
I would hope so, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And especially the newer officers that are coming on, they're definitely got to get trained with CIT, you would hope. Why wasn't that moment there to identify that? Because if he's in handcuffs, right? So the threat has decreased. dramatically, right?
Right.
If
It ain't over.
and it ain't over, but
Right.
at least the threat now has kind of been minimized, right? Even though he's a taller stature guy,
Right.
he's not flailing around. He's not really being all that combative as far verbally. And he's saying, "Man, I don't want to get in the car," and stuff like that. Why wasn't that at that point in time? What I think the issue is that there's always a rush. Let's rush it to get this over with instead of taking a moment in time to say, "Hey, listen, all right, I understand you don't want to get in the car. If you can articulate through, all right, listen, I'm gonna give you a moment to catch your breath or get your senses or whatever it is. What does that hurt? That doesn't hurt for you to take another 5, 10, 20 minutes if that's if that's what it's going to take in order for him to get himself together so that he will willingly want to get into the squad car. I mean, I don't understand that, but the moment you go from 0 to 20, where you say, you know what, get in the car, hey man, I feel this way, woo, and then you go to pushing them, there's no coming back from there. There's no you can't go, oh man, I didn't mean to put my hands on you, because now you have stepped from that level of 0 to 20, because now you've put your hands on them, right? So instead of you saying, look, sir, let me help you, or look, I'm gonna give you time to de-escalate yourself, or change the topic, or something, just a different approach, man, instead of trying to physically force him in the car where that, hey, he ain't trying to go. I mean, and he's not being combative or anything. He's just saying, like, man, I got an issue. This is why I've been shot, or I feel claustrophobic, or whatever. Like that. Those are training points there where they should have been like, all right, well, what can we do creatively now to kind of handle this, so it doesn't go to him going on his knees to now prone out on his stomach.
You remember, Kel, back when I was there after the knee situation, and I was leading those forums, right? Those community forums where we was talking about the communication piece about law enforcement, right? People feel that law enforcement doesn't take the time to explain what happens, right? I always, as much as I could, took the time to explain, decrease my fighting situations, but I would explain, but it would take a few extra minutes. Sometimes it take a good 20 minutes, right,
Yeah.
to explain. But the job was accomplished, right? I didn't need to fight with them. If just kind of talk to them, man. Look, what I mean. What if I roll the windows down, right? You can sit sideways. Just get in and put your feet up, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Make them feel like. I always tried to make people feel like they had, even though I felt like I was a puppet master, I wanted them to feel like they had control over their actions, even if I knew what the outcome was going to be.
Right.
Right. And it did well for me. Right. And so people would ask me, man, why do people cooperate? Well, because I talk to them. Right.
Exactly.
I don't talk bad to them. I don't, I try not to. You know what I mean? There was times where, I ain't gonna lie. There was times where I was, I was angry about some stuff. Right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, man, you're dumb, blah, 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 blah.
Human. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
But I didn't, I ain't dropped the elbow like I could have done with the young lady that put me out the game. I wouldn't have been hurt. She would have been hurt, but I wouldn't have been hurt.
Right.
But I could have done it. I could have, philosophically dropped the elbow on a lot of situations.
Yeah.
That to this day, I've arrested them multiple times in my career. And when they see me, they say, "What's up, Jane? How you doing, man? Woo, doo, doo, woo." Because I showed them respect. I communicated with them and made them feel as this they could still hold their pride.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't trying to. I didn't need to be the bully. I was a bully enough when I was a kid. Right. I didn't need to be the bully as the police.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that my word was going to end up being law. Unfortunately, right? That's because that's the nature of that job. But when it came to what was about to happen, but I wanted my community to understand that I cared about them. You just messed up, right? You did something that brought me here, and now I have to take action. I'm not taking action because I don't like you. You know, I'm not taking action because I have an issue with you. I'm taking action because you hit her with the chair. Hitting her with the chair equals going to the pokey, right? You know what I mean? That's what it is, and that's what it was. And I would explain that, like it was like, man, look, I ain't trying to fight with you. I ain't got no issue with you. But we got to go, man. You know what I mean? Or a young lady, right? You know what I mean? We got to go. And I hope we go the easier way, because the hard way means everybody gonna get hurt.
Yeah. I
And
think
I would get a lot more cooperation, Kale, that way. I know we only got a few minutes left. Go ahead, bro.
I think, you know, in this day and age, man, if my philosophy has been this, I'm going to show you respect until you show me that there is no respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care, if this the most minimal thing or it's the most severe thing, because at the end of the day, we're all people, and I'm not a judge. That's not my job.
Right.
When I arrive and I got to do what I got to do, once it's said and done and over with, that's it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not holding any grudges. I'm not labeling you. I'm not doing any of that because that's not my job. My job was to go there and enforce action if need be, to my discretion. So I think a lot of that, man, uh, the humanity part of it, of this job has been lost, um, because of the that there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of power that comes with that uniform and that badge. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that are depending on you to protect and serve. And in order for you to do that, you have to walk this thin blue line, which it is a reference that law enforcement use all the time, where you have to walk this line where you are protecting and serving, as well as not violating someone's civil rights, in the same form of fashion, because it's tough. Some days, man, you got to make those decisions where like, man, unfortunately, I got to take everybody, or I got to take one person, or maybe I don't do anything at all. But I think it also starts within that person, man, because if you have some a sense of dignity, some morals, and I can talk to you. Communication in this job, man, I believe is like 95% of the job. If I'm able to talk to you and say, look, man,
98.
so today ain't your day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
sorry. I mean, it's just what it is. And because of this, you did this, to this, and here's where we at. But the moment you walk in and say, hey, yo, blah, 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 that's a different encounter now. You know what I'm saying? And I understand because I've seen and experienced some of those things where the culture is different, where there is no respect. There is no dialogue. It's, hey man, what you doing here? That. But at the end of the day, you still have to find common ground because that's what you signed up for. You still have to find that common ground to have a conversation if possible, and to de-escalate it if possible. If not, then you gotta find different ways of doing things, man. You have to.
I've and we're in our last minute, but I've heard or seen people post that if they just would have cooperated. That's not always the case.
If who would have
Sometimes
cooperated?
the people who end up in the bad situations or lose their life, right, to law enforcement. That's not always the case. Cooperation under whose perspective, you know what I mean, are they referring? Because I could feel that I'm cooperating with you. You know, I just need a little time. You know what I mean? Give me a little time to breathe. You know, and that communication piece that you just eloquently broke down is so crucial to that thing, or to that gaining that cooperation, right? It is a person, even if it's a messed up situation, will go along with a lot of stuff if they understand.
Yeah.
It is imperative for our law enforcement community to get back to communication. Action is necessary, but communication is the first action and the most important action that we should be taking. Kale, if you don't have anything else, people, all of our listeners, audience, watchers, we appreciate you tuning in. Mr. Jones advised that he's going to get back with us. He apologized for not being able to jump on today because, you know, he was on the road and you know, whatever happened this morning that made him have to go to Minnesota, which we understand, but it kind of put him in a space. You could hear it on the phone. So, he did advise that he's going to join us here in the near future. So be looking for that. And we thank you again for jumping on. Kale, do you have any closing things? And we'll jump off.
Yeah, no, man, just stay tuned, man. Perspective boys.
All right, Perspective217. Thank you all for joining. We love you all. Let's have a better community. And we out.